welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. We're your host, Hurricane Age. New date, new show, new topic. It's going to be a ride today. It's going to be fun. It's a different twist, and it is still within the concept of us understanding, impact on health and mental health, and just this is something that's going to be a little bit of spin-off. But here's the thing, people always, tend to want to learn about their heritage and aligning back to who they are. And that actually makes a big difference in the identity of who you are in general. And of course, that's your well being and your mental. When things can become a lot better for you and your self esteem, everything becomes much better. So it's important to us. But I have with me today a super guest that's going to drive us into a history lesson, a heritage lesson. You name it, we're going to talk about it today. So I have with me Richard. I'm going to call him the King, Eze. And he will tell us, the true name of his name, because, if you watch the Lion King movie, we're going to be talking about the roots of that movie potentially here today. So, Eze, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much. I'm glad. I appreciate you inviting me.
No, my pleasure. So before we go anywhere, you and I had a whole discussion about your name, and your name is not just Eze. I mean, it's a pretty long name. I couldn't even pronounce it. I'm going to have to practice it, and I probably would do a good job eventually. So let's get us through your name and the meanings of your name, because you actually done a whole homework about what that meaning was, the origins, of it. You're also an author that you wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that because that book is very valuable for people who want to know their heritage and their origin and find their own trace back to their own, or I guess origins or tribes or I guess family tree. So let's talk about your name first.
When I learned that where my tribes are, I actually legally changed my name, and so my name is Richard Kweku Eze Akinyemi. Richard, of course, is English. It means powerful ruler. Kweku is the Afanti name. The Ashanti also have that same name. It's called a spirit name in Ghana. It's from the Fanti people of Ghana. Spirit names, they have names of the week that most Ghanaian have as their first name for their children. So Kweku means born on Wednesday. And Ezeagu is Igbo of Nigeria, and it is king of lions. And Akinyemi is Yoruba of Nigeria, and it is warrior king well suited to power. So my name represents all of the tribes that are in my DNA: the Fanti people of Ghana, the Igbo, and the Yoruba people of Nigeria. So Richard Kweku Ezeagu Akinyemi.
Richard Kweku.
Long but strong. Strong.
Richard. See, I was doing it, and
it's Richard Kweku
Ezeagu
Akinyemi.
All right.
That's it.
So yeah. It took a couple of seconds to get it right, and but I love it. I mean, you took the time to actually trace not only your heritage but also the breakdown of your name. Well, you selected that name, as you said.
I selected, yes.
Because it has meaning.
Some was given to me, and then the others I selected.
All right. Well, again, you complimented. But it's all powerful stuff. I did make a joke earlier, like that's too powerful for me. About how am I going to even stand in front of you with all these names and these powerful? I mean, from king to lion, the king of lions. And by the way, I love your get up there with the lions. So you're actually representing there.
Thank you. This actually is authentic. They call it Ishiagu. Ishiagu means the lion's cloth, the lion's head cloth. And it is particular to the Igbo people of Nigeria, the southeast Nigeria. But there are Igbos all over the world. Igbos are very well-known business. They have business prowess. So Igbos, Nigerians, period, are all over the world. But this cloth is the lion's head cloth. I particularly like it because that lion looks ferocious.
Well, the lion is the king, of the jungle, right? I mean, you don't mess
right.
with a lion. It is funny, I swear to God. I actually had a dream last night with lions.
Okay.
There's no that. I mean, I didn't make this up. I swear. As you said, that
divine preparation.
I have no idea what that meant, but maybe it meant something. But I had to tell you, like, this was like, I woke up like, it's the weirdest thing, and I didn't even put one on one together. Now you're talking about it's like, what's the coincidence? What are the odds, right?
That was divine preparation.
I have, it's. I'm not joking. I swear to God, that's exactly
I
what
believe
happened.
you.
It was just there were. I was passing through kings and lioness and lions, and they were just looking cool and they didn't bother me. And I was walking through them and stuff. And I was wondering, like,
Wow.
they're not attacking, they're not doing anything. It was kind of the weirdest thing. And now I'm talking about with the king of lions here.
It was like they were welcoming you in to the pride.
I listen. I whatever it was, it felt good. I mean, I was not afraid. That's like when you're in a dream and you kind of like you try to
That's right,
analyze
because
the dream
lions are
eventually.
ferocious. Lions, one swipe, they can end your life.
Oh, there was a movie I think where Idris Elba that just came out. I forgot what it is, the name of it, but it is about a story in Africa where these lions are going to be brutal and they're killing people, and
Mm,
it's I think it's on Netflix still. So
okay.
it's a pretty nice movie in terms of action, but it's also like African village heritage things like that, and definitely the lions are a star in the movie. So
Okay.
um, something to check. So you mentioned Igbo and Nigeria and Ghana. So now when you trace back, you did your DNA, you did all the stuff.
Yes. Well, I visited Nigeria in 2013. First time I ever visited the African continent. I went. My longtime doctor was Nigerian, is Nigerian, and I asked him. I said, I want to go with you sometime because he had been telling me about Nigeria. He had invited me to the Independence Day celebrations where I got exposed to the beautiful African fashion. And African women have fashion that is second to none on the planet. I mean, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. The food, I got exposed to Nigerian food. And so I said, I want to go to Nigeria with you. And so we went in November 2013, and it didn't take, I mean, the very next morning when I woke up in the hotel, the manager, the beverage manager, he looked at me, he said, "Are you Nigerian?" I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "You are an Igbo man. I tell you, you are an Igbo." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, how do you know?" He said, "You look like an Igbo. If you close your mouth, you look like you were born and raised right here." And so later on, I would see some Yorubas, and they told me the same thing that asked me if I was Nigerian. That was like one of the chapters in the book that I wrote is, "Are you Nigerian?" Because I kept getting asked that question on that 10-day trip. Are you Nigerian? So I was like, well, I don't know. Enslavement happened. Our culture was taken away. So I don't know. I have to do some DNA. But they told me, the Yorubas told me I was definitely Yoruba. The Igbos told me there's no doubt I'm Igbo. And then I did my DNA after I came back, and I found out that they were correct. On my father's side, I am Igbo and Yoruba, and on my mother's side, I am of the Fanti people of Ghana.
So you're both actually. So
Yes,
Central Africa
I'm of three
represented.
tribes. That's why my name includes Kweku, which is Fanti, Eze Akinyemi, which is Igbo, and Akinyemi, which is Yoruba. So my name includes all of the culture that had I was, did not know for so long, of course. And so now I'm connecting back to the culture, and I'm learning little by little. At the Ashanti Tree language, they say kakra kakra. It means little by little. Kakra kakra.
Kra, kra. Did I say it right?
Kakra kakra.
All right, so I think I said it.
You
Kra,
did
kra.
you did good. You did
All
good.
right, thank you. I love what you said. Enslavement happened and people lost their origin. I mean, because it was just there was no way to trace back to where the ancestry came from. And but
Mm-hmm.
you did that journey. Now, was this an actual like a full DNA test or like ancestry that one of those
Yeah.
you
Yeah, it
know
was a full DNA test because there's two. I'm glad you brought that up because there's two different types of DNA tests you can do. One is called the country test. I actually did a YouTube video on the Embrace Your DNA Greatness channel. It's only got two videos. One is that one that talks about are DNA tests accurate? And so two types of tests. The country test, which tells you, oh, I'm this much from Nigeria, this much from England, and this much from, but then there's the tribal test, which tells you actually what people groups, what tribes are in your DNA. And I highly recommend that one because the other test is kind of anecdotal. I found out I'm Nigerian, but Nigeria has like 300 something individual ethnic groups, and I don't know how many languages. So if you just say you're Nigerian, it's like, but yeah, but which one? Because their culture are all different. So you have to know the tribe or that people group to really get engaged with the culture, because the Yoruba and the Igbo, which I have both of those in me, both very different culture. Each one has their own distinct culture.
Well, it is true. I mean, yeah, unless you've been to Africa, I mean, sometimes, I mean, you see depictions in movies is one thing, but the
Yeah.
reality is
It's
different.
not a
Uh,
monolith. People like it's a monolith. It's not a monolith.
well, it's not. There's different tribes, as you said. By the way, I love what you said about the fashion because, I mean, I've even in the States, I mean, when there's holidays, people come up, with some nice garments. I mean, it's just the colors are just amazing, and it is, I mean, today, I mean, Kwanzaa just passed, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
colors of Kwanzaa, I mean, represent a lot of that, and
Exactly.
it's unique and it's pretty. And by the way, that's actually what when even in the islands and things like that, where the colors come from, and things like that. So those colors are very vivid and bright,
Mm-hmm.
and but they look good. I mean, they make it real good. I mean, again, I happen to be of African descent myself. I mean, obviously I'm from Morocco. I mean, Northwest Africa, but yeah,
From the continent.
from the continent, of course. Yeah. So there's one thing that I wanted just to highlight. We all look at the maps today and we see Africa, in a particular size and in the world. Africa is the actual, monster, continent. When you look at mileage, it's bigger than what it shows in the map.
Mm-hmm.
And as to your point,
Oh,
there's a
much
lot
bigger.
of
That's right.
yeah, I mean, if you add, the miles, radius, you're gonna find out that it's bigger than how it is looking in the map there, and compared to other maps. I mean, the maps are not there. There's
They're
multiple types of
skewed.
maps. Well, they are,
Yes.
and there are different original maps that you can actually trace back, but there were
Mm-hmm.
reasons, political reasons, and that the current maps, look the way they
And
look.
I
But
think we all know the reasons.
yeah, well, it's not a political show, so I'll keep it clean.
That's why. That's why I just said we all know the reasons.
you know but certainly there's historical stuff, and there's some political, there's some racial, there's all kind of things. There's power in there, where you show big, you want to show power, you show small, you show less power. And there's all these psychiatry pieces that were involved into this, and how people are being brought up into believing a certain concept and so on. So but when you go to Africa, is a very diversified continent with a lot of history and things like that. Go ahead.
You said mental health. You mentioned mental health, and I'm glad that you said mental health, because I can definitely see how me connecting to my culture and the people that is in my DNA has definitely it's enriched my life. Like, it's indescribable how much it has enriched my life. It has enriched my confidence, because there was a trip that I went on. It was a networking trip and a lobbying trip, actually, because I was in the insurance industry. And I was asking the people when they came down, I was looking at their last names, and I was asking, well, is that Italian? Is that of Italian descent? Or that of, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have asked anybody that if I didn't know what I am. So for as far as my mental health, I would say learning about my connection to the continent and the different groups, and just learning about their culture and being so well received by the people in those groups, it is definitely life affirming. And I think it's very, very important and impactful to mental health. That's just my opinion.
I would agree, and not only that. I mean, first of all, knowing your roots is always, it's going to give you the confidence. Whether it's family. It's just some people just want their biological family, right, to know, right, and that's just the smaller context. But in this case, you're talking about history, and you want to know where your people come from, where the origins are, what's your tradition, what's your culture, so you belong to that culture, right? That's one, two, and by the way, it's so big that even today, I mean, these tests that are being done, all over the place. Everybody find out, let's find out about your origin. Everybody's doing it. It's a trend.
Right.
Because everybody, if you think about it, everybody wants to know, like, what is my roots? Where would I come from?
Right.
Because here's the thing: we live in a country, we're in the States, and I mean, I think I was watching a documentary or some show the other day, and someone said, "Well, unless you're a Native American, you came from somewhere else," and that's a fact, folks. I mean,
And
whether
that is a fact.
we want to accept it or not, I mean, we can claim it any
A
way we
nation
want.
of immigrants or enslaved. When they say nation of immigrants, it's not just immigrants, it's nation of immigrants and descendants of people that were enslaved. That's the
Agreed.
correct.
Agreed. And I mean, listen, we have history and we do have documentation of the history and we know how it is. I mean, there was always a joke that we like in the days that we had these discussions about like the this discovery of America, right? And one of the jokes like, how can you discover a country that's already had people in it? And
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
but and how people are still referring to the natives or the indigenous people as Indians, yet they're not Indians. I mean, they were going to India. I mean, they were going. That was the whole idea is that they're going to discover India, but they discovered the Americas and stuff. So there's a lot of these things. So we had back in reading I mean learning about geography and getting those things those jokes did come up, but it's an interesting because we live in a diversified land, and you're right, it's diversified by a lot but even the immigrants came in to work and as laborers and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
so the first folks the conquistadors from the Spaniards, when they came in,
Mm-hmm.
they had front row action, right? And they did, and then eventually it evolved, and then that was a predominantly one particular migration, immigration flow. And then even today we have a diversified lottery, the
Mm-hmm.
DV-25, I think, or DV lottery visa, which is
Very
basically
diversified.
to diversify. Every year there's a certain amount of people that are being sought from different countries that don't have enough representation in the States. That just shows that the country is and will always be about that. And the natives who are the indigenous people are still here. And frankly, I mean, even the indigenous people are marginalized still, in literally small areas in the country, very limited resources, things like that, which is amazing, right? But again, like I said, I don't want to politicize the show, but understanding the actual roots of everybody makes a difference, and I
Mm-hmm.
think everybody is happy. Doesn't matter what your background, your religion, background, your ethnic background, your race. You want to know what that is, just because you belong to a bigger group, a bigger place, a bigger history, and I think that's everybody's longing. So thank you for actually touching on that one. But it is a mental health piece, because if
It is.
you are at peace with yourself, as you said, you feel more confident. You feel more you. And you have ability to actually even stand and talk to people. Like, you can't tell me I'm a nobody. I am somebody. I have this is
It
where I'm
enriches your
going.
life. I mean, it really enriches your life. And another point that I'd like to make based on that mental health aspect is think about a people who have been called so many different names: Black, colored, Negro, African American, and now the new one I'm sure you know is BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Well, the reason why it's been so many is because we do not have the connection. Where it's like not having the connection. So Marcus Garvey said, "A people that are not connected to their history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." And when I found my people and connected, now I don't. I'm not just saying I'm an African American. I don't have to say I'm BIPOC now. I can tell people that I am an American, Ghanaian, Nigerian because I know, so many of us, there's over 43 million African Americans that don't know what the connection is, what people group. Just like if you have a bunch of people, when you see Asian Americans, you don't go up to an Asian American and they don't say, I'm an Asian American. They say, I'm a Japanese American, or I'm a Chinese American, or an Indonesian American. Or if you go to people from Europe, they'll say, I'm an Italian American, or I'm a German American. But when you talk to African American, Africa is a continent with 54 countries. And we don't know which one until we, do the work like I've had to do because of the history of enslavement, which totally removed the culture from us. And so that's why my passion is to really help those of us who don't know to really connect and enrich our lives in ways that I could not imagine how it was life changing. That November 2013, actually, that's a line of demarcation in my life, because my life after November 2013 had been completely changed from the way it was before after I learned. And I actually live in Africa now. So I live in in Ghana now. So that has been a great shift because of connecting to my roots. And that is mental health wise, I just feel, better than I've ever felt.
Well, I would say, first of all, congratulations for being able to do that. And also, if you have
Thank
kids,
you.
that will be an opportunity for the kids to also know, and not be without that trace, to the origin, right?
Exactly.
And I love what you said about, yeah, I mean, everybody's identifying as from their country specifically, like, because they can trace back. I'm Italian and I'm German, I'm British, I'm, Irish, or Spanish. But you're right. It was a blanket African American. I mean, to your point, it's a big continent. There's a lot of stuff. I'm African American too, technically. I mean, I am. I literally, I'm American and African. I can prove it. I have two passports, literally. I mean, that's another joke that I used to make, like with
But
someone like,
because you're Moroccan, you can say I'm an American
Moroccan.
Moroccan.
Correct. Yeah.
You're an American Moroccan. So
That's
you're
yeah.
Moroccan.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, but this came up, a few times in my early days in the States when like, so you're African? I was like, yeah, I am. I can prove it. I have two passports, and I used to actually use that card. But it's I'm proud of being American. I'm proud of being a Moroccan, and I'm also proud of being African. I mean, that's my land.
Right.
That's where I come from, and
that's
actually,
all a part of who you are.
That's right, and we should all be proud of who we are, and
That's right.
and respect everybody else, for who they are, and that's really
exactly.
If we have this formula, everybody will live happy, right?
Respect the differences.
That's right, and
appreciate the differences.
I think the difference is for a purpose. I mean, if we were all the same, we will be idle. I mean, I can. I mean, think about it. If the world was one color. I mean, I'm talking about just one paint, one, like black and white,
like vanilla. Just everything was vanilla.
Exactly. You wouldn't even know. Like I used to make this joke with. Well, it's not a joke. I used to tell this as a test. Imagine there was only one color or no color. We're all the same. You wouldn't even know your hands from yourself, from your TV set, from your family members, because we'll be one. The diversity of color gives the flavor, the color, the life. I mean, even in animals and plants,
spice to life.
Well, look at everything around us. When you look at nature, it's colorful, it's rich, it's bright, it's beautiful, and so that's the fabric of humanity. We're supposed to look the way that we are. There's a reason for that, and there is no difference. I mean, at least in my belief, from the religious aspect of it, there is no difference between white and black.
Yes. We're all the human race. We're all from one race, the human race.
We say the only difference, I guess difference will be in righteousness. Who is more righteous than the other person? And that's something that you elevate to based on your faith and your belief and your respect and so on and so forth. So that's all there is. So when you get to this point, I mean, you live a happier life mentally. And obviously, if you're mentally set, everything else is going to follow. I mean, look at you. You're so happy. Then you made the transition and you're happy again, living in the environment that you chose to live in happily, right? And so, and again, talking about Morocco, Morocco is just another African country with a lot of diversity. I mean,
that's right.
I have,
couscous.
Couscous is our top priority. That's like everybody's household, name food. I mean, you have to have couscous, especially Fridays. But
I think about Morocco when I think about couscous.
Well, I think everybody knows what couscous is. Well, maybe I don't know. I can't generalize that everybody knows, but it is this main, native, I guess dish and traditional dish of Morocco, and they have there's different varieties of actually making it. I mean, you can have it vegetarian, you can have it with meats, chicken, all kind of flavors, sweet, things like that. But it is a dish. But Morocco is again a diversified place, and there is an African, Central African, presence as well. I mean, today, by the way, more than ever, we do have, because there's a migration of Africans, from Central Africa to the north. I mean, a lot of people, they wanted to cross to Europe, and they eventually stayed in Morocco. So there is actually a whole new level of migration. Culture or diversity now in Morocco,
because of that.
And there are Africans who actually speak Moroccan, and they actually becoming now Moroccans on their own. And so it's changing, even the fabric today. But I can tell you, like my grandfather from my dad's side is African. I mean, he was as African as you can expect it to be. And on my mother's side is their lighter skin. And it's amazing that match was always there. Historically, we have that nice, make sure, and people lived, the same that way without any, difference in terms like who we don't look at the color piece of it. It was just like you are my father, you are my mother, you are my
Right.
cousin, and that's all there was. There was nothing. I mean, it's just amazing how that perspective, when you start looking at it from you're different than me and I'm different than you is unique when you're
Yeah.
raised in a way that didn't exist. So it was actually for me, it was a very shocking element when I moved to the States and I start seeing like how people differentiate the color piece, your race versus mine. Because I grew up with cousins of all flavors of different, literally the spectrum. And I didn't look at them like this one is white, this one is black, this one is, I don't know, brown. It wasn't like we were just the same, family. And so that's an important thing. And so again, talking about mentally, when I was raised that way, that was just amazing. You don't you're all set. You don't have to worry about those differences. But then you
Hmm.
get into a society where you have to worry about like how you look, how you feel, how you sound, and and it becomes difficult.
Exactly.
So it's an adjustment, and it takes a toll sometimes on people. And again, I mean, I have to say, this is a bigger topic. I mean, that can lead into a lot of stuff. But what I want to discuss more today is your book because you wrote the book with a purpose. So what was the purpose for the book?
The purpose is to show how I connected, how it enriched my life when I connected, and also to be like a roadmap because I talk about when I wanted to change my name, all of the things I had to go through to change my name, the cost that I went through in the last chapter. I talk about the paperwork, but it's really about encouraging people. Pardon the noise. It's really about encouraging people to find their roots. Don't, I say don't die without finding out the other half because the analogy that I use is the full moon. We all have seen the beautiful full moon, right? But every time we see a full moon, there's another half just as big. It's called the dark side of the moon. It's just as big as the full moon that we see that the sun is shining on. So I said it's a great analogy for African Americans because we have this great African American culture that's gone all over the world. We're really copied on, a lot of things that we do. People copy because you only copy what you like, and it's like a form of flattery for somebody to say, "Hey, we like that so much that we're going to copy it," right? But then there's another side that's in our DNA. Just like before I went to Nigeria and they told me that I hadn't done my DNA test yet. So I didn't know. I only knew the African American cultural side, which is a rich culture. But there was another half that's connected, the dark side of the moon, which was the dark side of my culture, dark meaning unknown, right? So when I went to Nigeria and they told me, very emphatically, you are an Igbo man. I tell you, you're an Igbo. And I was like, wow. So then I said, well, let me find out. And once I did, and I said, let me connect. And man, my life has never been the same. So it's my passion is to encourage people because what I want to share with you is not only are there over 43 million in the United States, there's over 90 million in Brazil that don't know their ancestral roots. And when you add all of the Americas, just on this side of the pond, all of the Americas, Central America, South America, North America, it's over 200 million. Over 200 million people that don't know what their ancestral connection is, that can't say like an Italian American or German American or a Indonesian American or a Japanese American or a Chinese American because they don't know. And it's because we are all the descendants of the enslaved, over 200 million of us. So we need to find out, we need to connect to the DNA and the culture, the people and the culture in our DNA. And it's going to be absolutely life-changing and fabulous. It's going to enrich those that do it, it will enrich your life. I cannot encourage it enough. I'm so excited for the people that are going to do. I even talk about that in the book. I'm so excited. I tell people, I say, are you ready for the journey? Let's get excited about this because connecting to people that you didn't know that you were a part of, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Well, so thank you. Now I have, what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Found My People, and the website is very easy. It's foundmypeople.com. Found My People. And there was actually a poem about a Found My People poem, and let me know when is a good time
Oh, please
to.
go ahead. Yeah, we can
Okay,
break it down
so
now.
God gave me this poem. It says, "I've found my people. You can too. There's a people for me and a people for you. Like a door that you found in your house that is new, with elaborate furnishings, all belonging to you. A people who will welcome and make you feel new. I've found the people for me. Now find the people for you." That's it.
Well, and I think that that will go for everybody, man. It's a pretty powerful, poem, and definitely, deep in the insights of it. Um, so now you talked about the 200 million potential people, and by the way, you mentioned just the ones in this side of the world. I mean, there are Africans all over the world,
There
actually.
are, and I don't
Yeah.
even know what the number is when you count the other side,
Hmm.
of the world, the Europe side, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know there are descendants of enslaved over there. I don't even know what the numbers are. So you can imagine if it's over 200 million just on this side of the pond, I don't know what the number is all told.
Well, I mean, it's a little different because, for example, in France, I mean, there's definitely a big, immigration, I guess, contingency.
Expat, there's a big expat community in France too.
Well, there is, but I'm talking about like so. Let's say there's a big Moroccan presence, North African presence, and African presence in France, for example, just as
Oh,
a
I didn't
country.
know that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, we were colonized, so obviously,
Okay, I
very
got you.
similar. Slavery and colonization,
Yes,
they
that's
do go
right.
hand in hand. So as a French colony, we were actually there, and of course, after the World War II and all the independence, they needed a rebuild. So a lot of labor came from Africa. It was easier, cheaper, I guess, and so they took a lot of these folks, and
So there's
those
a
this.
huge community there.
Oh, there is. I mean, there is a huge community that it's actually causing havoc right now because it's causing a lot more racism. Because here's the problem: you have these groups that actually are 3, 4 generations in now, and they are just as French as anybody else. But also, there, for example, from a religious aspect, there is a more grown Islamic, for example, community. So that's one
Mm-hmm.
challenge. And then the other one is just that there is a bigger contingency of color as opposed to how France was and looked and it wanted to be, right. So there is that,
Mm-hmm.
and so it changed the dynamics and the fabrics. There's also the age factor of the original French, for example. They don't have a lot of kids by culture.
Mm.
They have one, two, maybe no kids. So they're basically getting older and older, and they're not basically being replaced with the newer
Uh,
French generation. So there's all these nuances that are happening there. So it's caused that, but there is, but the only difference is that for example, in France, you will find an African person that will say, "I am from Nigeria. I am," because they know where they came from as an immigrant, because they were actually
exactly.
extracted literally just for labor, not as slaves, but they just basically come in to work.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so they still have that
They immigrated.
they immigrated. Well, they immigrated, some by force, some by none,
Mm-hmm.
but nevertheless, it was not the same concept as the slavery,
Right.
and the time that it was in the States. It was just for a different purpose.
So they
I
know
mean,
their roots. You're saying they know their
they knew,
roots.
so I believe that's a lesser impact in Europe, at least from what I know, because even like, for example, there's a big Moroccan community in France and in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
big Algerian, Tunisian, there is a lot of French, like Cote d'Ivoire, I can see it in the map. So
Mm-hmm.
you got Senegal, all the Cameroon, all the French speaking countries, in Africa, they happen to have been in the French colony. Therefore, they're the easy ones to actually go and work in France because they spoke the
Mm-hmm.
language. So you have that. I mean, you'll have less. Just again, we can go to England and then we can go to India, right? You have a lot of Indians because they
Right.
were colonized and they spoke the language and great labor, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, you talk about, it's an interesting thing because when you look at the West Indies, right? You go to West Indies, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, these folks, they know their origins. I mean, we're West Indians, but our ancestry comes from India. So
Okay.
it's a weird thing because, a lot, but you're right. In the history of the States, we don't have that because, people were
Yeah.
just
It was
summoned
completely
from all over.
separated. completely
Yeah,
separated.
people didn't know. I mean, you grow up in a family and you know that that's your root, but you don't know what country. And you're right, it could be
Exactly.
anyone.
You
Uh,
know you're African descendant, but you don't know what people. And there's a whole lot of different people groups. I mean, just in one country, but then if you talk about the whole 54 countries, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many thousands, and
well, I agree.
probably tens of thousands. It's probably tens of thousands of different, ethnic groups in the
Well,
whole of Africa, right?
well,
But
here,
we
as
all belong to one or some of them.
that's right. Well, Ezzy, here's the thing. You talked about couscous earlier, right? Well, here's the thing. Now, if you talk about just food, right? you know, there is the African American cuisine, if you want to call it. That
Right.
that is
Mhm.
not African cuisine.
No,
That
it's
is
not.
just exactly. So now
I
you've
talk about
discovered.
that in the book too.
Well, that's important because now you have, when you know your ancestry, right? You would know like the traditional foods of the country, of your tribe, your village.
Exactly.
And it's robust stuff. It's not just the basic stuff. I'm not saying that the African American is not robust. It's just that it is
Oh,
different. It's a whole different. That's a traditional cooking
the
versus
African food is mwah. But I put a story in my book in the seventh grade. We had to bring a cultural dish. And I talk about the fact that I didn't know, what an African we had. That's You brought up another point that I talk about in the book. The average African American has never eaten any African food. It's the only group that is true of, because Moroccan Americans, they've eaten Moroccan food, right?
every day.
Italian Americans, they've eaten Italian food. Can you imagine an Italian American that hadn't eaten spaghetti, right? German Americans have eaten German food. Greek Americans have eaten Greek food. Just whatever their name of the kind of American they are, they have eaten that kind of food. They are familiar with the food. They're familiar with the culture. We are all calling ourselves African Americans, but the average African American has eaten everybody else's food: Chinese food, German food, French food, Indian food. I mean, we've eaten everybody else's food, but the average African American has never eaten any African food, because the restaurant is not as easy. In the big cities, you can find them, but not uniformly across America, like a Chinese restaurant, right? You can find a Chinese restaurant in almost any place you go in America, but you can't find an African restaurant. So the average person African American has not eaten African food. And in the seventh grade, I made tacos, and they weren't good tacos. And I talk about that in the book, about the not having the culture and the effects of that we don't talk about every day, that we don't think about every day. But when you are at a disadvantage when you're African American and you're asked to bring a cultural dish when you have never been connected to African culture. So you have to bring maybe something American or something from somebody else. Like I bought a Mexican dish, and I'm not Mexican, and the one who was Mexican brought much better tacos than I did.
Well, but it's amazing, right? I mean, there is soul food. I mean, we get it. It's
Yeah,
a
but that's not
traditional.
African food.
Exactly, but it
African.
was it was
I didn't know
created.
what African food was.
No, but that's exactly what my point is, that yeah, it is a traditional African American food, if you want to call it,
Yes,
because it was kept in the tradition of the holidays and celebrations and stuff, but it is not attached to the original tribal food. And by the way, even if
exactly,
you were, you can't, because you said it. Plus, over 50 countries, everyone has its own meals,
exactly.
traditions, and combinations, and kind of the way they prepare, the spices and things they use. So it's changed. It's a whole different aspect of it. Now people can say, well, what's food had to do with it? Food is part of your heritage,
Oh,
your health,
it's
your
absolutely a
everything.
part of the
Yeah.
culture. Yes, you're absolutely right. And food has everything to do with culture. You know, a lot of bonding happens when you're sitting around the table, sharing a good meal with whoever it is you're sharing it with. And that meal usually has everything to do with the culture and the people of that area. That's the kind of meal that they're preparing. And so, now I can tell you the difference. I know that one of the banku and tilapia and banku and okra stew is very big in Ghana, right? And in Nigeria, suya, which is the beef that has this dry rub and roasted over fire. That's my favorite thing in Nigeria. It's absolutely delicious. And so the Yoruba and the Igbos and the Fanti, they have different foods. So now I know them, but then when I was in seventh grade, I didn't know.
Well, again, here's the thing: your journey was a discovery journey, right? You did it. Not
That's right.
not everybody took that route that you did. I mean, you fell in love with the idea. You
And
traveled.
that's what I'm encouraging. That's my passion. That's what I want to encourage them to do. That's why I'm getting in front of very great hosts like you to try to tell people get and so the story is to encourage them and say, hey, look what happened to this person when they connected. That can happen for me too, and it's kind of a guide on how to do it. I talk about how to do it, how to connect if they want to.
I think your guide is for everyone who really longs back to. I mean, believe it or not, even in other cultures, some people have dissipated so far behind, their true culture they don't even know. I mean,
That's
I'm talking
true.
about even other cultures. So your book may have repercussions across other nations and other, I guess, descendants, right? I mean, and in time it will become, a more valid, concept that you want to trace back and do stuff because even with Europeans, maybe don't even know where they come from. They just happen to be, because they're so far behind in generations.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, they say I'm a little bit of everything, right? But really,
Right, they
you
might
might not know. Yeah, but it's kind
because
of
people
weird,
move around.
exactly. People move around. People, there's different things, and there's a level of interest that everybody wants to know. And by
Mm-hmm.
the way, here's the thing. So you talk about the culture and food. You know, the continent offers different types of I guess vegetarian what do you call it, plants based stuff. You have different animals, different birds, different things. So the food, it will be different just by default because they, for example, in some in Morocco we eat goat. Not everybody, if you tell someone in America goat, it's not
I
really a
love
big.
goat.
Well,
Goat
you
is
do, but
good.
I know, but yeah, curry goat and all stuff. But that's more like Caribbean and things. But a lot of folks, like lamb and
And
goat is not.
lamb.
Yeah, that's not really a big deal here in the states. Beef is
Mm-hmm.
is is the main course meal, right? That's the biggest
That's
thing.
right.
You know, Turkey. In other cultures, they may not have that. They have different things. And so it
Mm-hmm.
changes stuff. Some countries also are big fish. Countries. And so it changes dynamics and even the types of vegetables you find in a place may not be equal to the stuff. I mean, you
That's
talked
true.
about Asian culture, for example. You go to an Asian store, and I'm just generalizing the term here. There's different vegetables and things that you are
Mm-hmm.
not going to be able to find in a regular market. So yeah, the land
Have you
itself
ever seen a
produces.
land snail? Have you ever seen a land snail?
I know what a snail looks like.
I'm talking
Escargot.
about a land snail. It's called a land snail in Nigeria. It's
No,
like the size of a cat.
it is a
This
snail.
snail is huge. It's the biggest snail I've ever seen in my life. It's a land snail. So when I went to Nigeria, I said, I'm not going to allow my Western sensibilities to make me not experience the culture. So I ate things that I normally wouldn't eat. Because when they say snail in America, I'm not eating it. Okay. I'm just not eating it.
I can say they
But
taste good. So, but that's another story.
but but this snail is huge. It's like it's as big as a cat. It's big. I was like, my God, I've never seen a snail that big. But anyway, what they do is they'll roast it, they grill it, and sometimes they'll have it fried or boiled. I had it boiled, and I can tell you I don't like boiled snail. And then my wife, who was Nigerian, made some for me that was the grill, which a lot of people say, a lot of Nigerians said, oh man, that's better than suya. I said, when I tried it, I said, it is not better than suya. Suya is much better than snail. But that was my opinion. But my point is, I didn't let myself be repulsed and say I'm not going to try it because I've grown up in this culture that we don't do that, right? I said I'm going to try it because it's the culture that I'm trying to learn about. So I tried things, and now I can tell you very positively, I do not eat snail.
Well, so it's funny about snails. So everybody knows them as escargot, which is a French delicacy, right? So,
Those are
so
the little ones.
the
This
little ones,
sucker
yeah,
is huge.
yeah,
It's
not.
huge.
I figured that. Well, the meat's gonna be more consistent.
It's like a pet.
I
It's
know, but
like if you've seen SpongeBob, the
yeah, oh
land
yeah,
snail is like Gary. You know Gary on SpongeBob,
yeah.
big snail.
Yeah. So
Now
now
that's
you
Gary.
just gonna ruin it for everybody that's watching SpongeBob.
Hey, they might like it. They might like it. I'm just
You
telling
just
them
ate
I don't
Gary,
like it.
man.
But this is the thing. I hope what they take away from this is I was willing to try it. I was willing to try it. you
But
know,
that's
and
that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I'm just
No.
saying I was willing to try it, so I know I don't like it. I didn't just say I don't like it because sometimes I'll talk to people and I was trying to introduce the food Nigerian food to my mom and my sister. My mom was okay. Let me try it. My niece was let me try it. My sister was like, I don't want any. I don't want any. I said, don't worry, it won't go to waste. And so when she saw my mom try some, my mom was like, "Ooh, that's really good." It was egusi soup, which is a Nigerian specialty. It was goosey soup and pounded yam. And so my niece tried it. She said, that is good. And then my sister was like, oh, okay, let me try it. Let me try it. And then she liked it. And she got a co-worker who's Nigerian said, next time you cook a goosey soup, bring me some. So now my sister, who is so reluctant, is connecting to the culture. I just love it.
Well, again, food does connect people. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, again, going back to the couscous, a lot of people know the culture through the couscous or through the food. They test the food. You tell them,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I ate some of the food, and so that can at least links a little bit, and
It's
when you go to,
delicious.
yeah, it is. Well, like I said, I mean, it depends how you cook it and whatever,
That's
but the
right. If
concept,
somebody knows how to cook it, because I think I had it Moroccan style with lamb, the
mm,
couscous with lamb, and it was delicious.
I'm sure there's got to be a Moroccan restaurant in Nigeria somewhere. They
Yeah, probably.
Oh, there is. I'm sure there's a Moroccan contingency there too. I mean, because
Hmm.
there's a good Morocco has a good
Well, in
relationship with
Lagos,
them.
definitely Lagos is like New York, man. There's from all over the world in Lagos.
Oh, yeah, well, I can guarantee you there's gonna be a good Moroccan place there.
Hmm.
By the way, you talked about like the food here in the States, and I'm close to New York City, so we do have a lot of places
Oh
where you can
yeah,
have
you don't have
authentic.
everything.
You can get the authentic food here, and
You
it's
can
cooked
get
by the
everything
originals. Yeah,
there.
so
That's right.
but I mean, it is, I think your journey, as I said, it is a complete journey that took you from, not knowing, or at least, wandering to knowing everything,
Right.
enjoying that, and then building now a next generation that will have a direct link to their culture.
Exactly.
So your kids now will have no doubt they know who they are, where they come from, what their ancestry is. They know the tradition food. They probably can keep up with that tradition, and so on and so forth. And your book is really a guide, as you said, to others to do the same. I mean, of course, you're not forcing anyone. People have a choice. They
No,
don't want
it's
to
up to
know. They
them.
don't want to know.
Because everybody's not going to want to change their name like I did. I mean, I addressed that in the book.
They don't have
Everybody's
to
not
change
going
their
to want
name.
to change their name, huh?
They don't have to change the name, but they can still
No, they don't have
be
to. They don't
aligned
have
with their
to.
culture. Yeah. So
And they're not. Everybody's not going to want to. I understand that, but for me, it was important for me. But I'm not saying that everybody's going. And I even talk about that. I said whatever people decide is going to be what's right for them. It was right for me to change my name, but it's going to be just as right for somebody else to just know, what their connection is and connect to the people, and maybe not change their name.
well, listen, to each his own, as I say. But the key
Exactly.
is, the key is let's encourage folks to at least read the book.
Just get
And
connected. That's
yeah,
that's that's the key. Get connected.
we live in a world of connecting and connections and Wi-Fi, right? Without the Wi-Fi, you don't connect with anything, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
this is the best Wi-Fi you can have is connecting to your roots and knowing your traditional stuff. I mean,
That's right.
it's a whole different place to be, and it's again there's a pride there. There's again a mental aspect to it. There's a confidence. There is at least you have a bigger I guess family that you belong to, and you know exactly who that is. And not that, listen, I mean, I'm sure you go there, you're still you within the culture, and you have to be you and do your work and do stuff. But at least from that aspect of deprivation of who you originally was, now that's removed. It's one less thing to worry about in your life. But that's
Mm-hmm.
because you wanted that. Some people may not want it, and that's fine. But the idea is, I don't think someone out there watching or listening not going to want to know. And by the way, this concept can go for anything, folks. It doesn't matter who's watching,
That's
because this
right.
is a worldwide show. If you think something that you're missing, and in your self, your history, whatever, you can always do the steps to find out who, what, where, when. And there's nothing that can stop you for it. It's you owe it to
That's
yourself
right.
to do it that way. And doesn't matter what, like, you talked about my name. So you're gonna encourage me now. I'm gonna do some more digging, about
That's
to
right.
find a name because I do
Talk
have
to
one
those
person.
elders. Talk to those elders. They'll tell you what that name, that part means.
Well, no, I told you, like, I did speak to my grandfather when he was alive, I was a kid, and he explained to me how they did that, and that he selected that name specific. Well, it wasn't my grandfather; it was his brother, my uncle,
Right.
my great uncle. He actually told me, about the story because that's how they divided and they split the names into
A way of
two
life.
two family one family with two different last names now, but originally from one area, and that was they all had the same last name, and there is a family with that same last name still. So now we have almost three family names. And here's the sad part, that the new generation may not even know that they actually cousins, or
Well, see,
because
that's why those family reunions, you got to link them up, have those times during those family reunions to learn and encourage them to know.
so here's what I did my way, not writing the book, but what I did is actually I created a Facebook page
Okay.
with all the families, and I called it the family page for everybody that has one of the other last names. They can join there so they can meet and
That's
mingle together.
outstanding. That's
So
really good.
I did something there. So maybe, folks, if you have that dilemma, just create something and have everybody that's related go
That's
in there.
right.
And now everybody's going to know, oh, who you are. And believe me, I met a lot of cousins and second cousins, third cousins that I didn't know.
That's
And
actually a very smart idea.
so again, so everybody tries to do something to help, but you never know, and you'll be surprised that you'll connect with some people that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, and their kids. At least they know
No
your
doubt.
facial, they know you how you look,
You,
they know
you,
your
you'll,
kids.
you'll know your people.
That's
And,
right.
and that page that you created is allowing you to find your people.
That's right. Yeah, and anybody can do that. That's easy. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, uh, folks, whatever is gonna make you feel better at the end of the day, mentally and physically, that's the element that you need to seek, and that's really it. It gives you peace of mind, it gives you happiness. Whatever things that you're gonna get out of these things are always gonna be positive, and that's the thing. Our mission is to be positive. And like I said, you and I we talked about is if the world is just becoming nice, and get along with everybody, we will have a very good place to live. It's no problems on this planet. Sadly,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case, but
Not the case.
we all have to do our part to hopefully make a difference, and we'll continue doing that.
That's right.
So, Ezzy, we're coming to the end of the show. So, what is a good message that you want to share with our audiences today, or any particular group that you want to like send a message to today?
Well, what I want to share is it's vitally important that we take the time to connect and learn. For those of us that don't know our ancestral connections, our DNA connections, it's very important to take the time and learn. It's going to be life enriching. And I'm just excited because some people that have done it have been sharing it with me. I'm excited for the potential for every person that really needs to connect to actually do that. Connect, find out where you're from, make plans to go visit, save up. I'd say save up. You want to go at least 2 weeks. Don't go for 7 days because you're going to go here, there, and then you're going to be tired. You're going to go back home. Go for at least 2 weeks so you have time to build in some rest time while you're over there so that you can really soak in the cultural experience. And it's going to be a life-changing, life-affirming, life-enriching event. Please don't die and not find out what the other half of your full moon is. The full moon, we know that, but the other half, let's find out what the other half is. And like you said, it's about legacy, passing it down to letting our children know and grandchildren and just enriching everybody's lives along the way. As I learn to speak a little bit of language that I learned, you should see the joy it brings to the people because you're telling them that you respect them when you try to learn their language. And it just brings joy to everybody. So don't miss out, connect, and then let me know. Go on foundmypeople.com. Let me know because, you can contact me on the website. Let me know when you do. I really want to hear about it.
Well, Isaiah, this was a fun trip with you. I mean, you took us back to the old continent, and it's funny because we refer to it as the old continent for a reason, right? And
It's
and, and
the origin of life. Everybody has African DNA. Everybody in the world has African DNA. It's the
And,
only DNA that everybody has, greater or lesser extent, but every single human being on this planet has African DNA.
well, historically, we do know that it was all one continent and kind of broke
That's
up.
right.
So it's still, if you actually put them all together, Africa still remains in the middle there. So that's just a fact. And here's the
And
thing:
it's the biggest.
we are all human, which means, by the way, for anybody that believes in any religion, which is, I think, the majority of humans, you know, we all believe in the creation of Adam and Eve, and well, not all, but those that do, and again, I'm
Well,
referring
for one
to
way or another,
Christian.
we all believe that creation. Even the people that believe in the Big Bang believe it was something created. I mean, it happened.
Well,
It had to be
well, the
created.
true, yeah. I mean, it's been there. There's a design, and so therefore
That's
there's a
right.
designer, right?
Well, I
But
believe that there's divine design, but
of course, I agree.
yeah,
But again, just for because that's a whole debate and a whole show
that's
discussion.
right.
We
There's a
can have
whole
fun with
other
that one.
story.
But what I wanted to just to your point to convey is this: we come from a pair of a male and a female. All of us, all this humanity is two parents that we had.
That's
And
right.
so technically you're my brother. Everybody that's listening and watching is a brother, sister to
Absolutely
us,
correct.
from our ancestry. Whether we want to accept it or not, that's a different story. We might be so remote, a couple thousand years apart, but we still go back to the same roots and to the same,
That's right.
creation. So if we start thinking that way, life will be a lot easier for all of us, folks.
You're absolutely correct.
So, well, listen, it was real. I mean, you brought me to some of you kind of grounded me a little bit to the roots. Like sometimes we get caught up in life, and you hear something like this, she kind of makes you motivated back, and get you a little bit,
That's great. I'm happy to
you know.
hear
So
that.
so so I'm your first cured person right now. You've cured me, from being, a human, what do you call it, a rat race, concept to going back to the roots here. She took me back to
Yeah.
the roots, and
Take some time to recharge.
it's always a good thing, man. Thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much. This was
Okay.
fun, and
Thank
yes,
you.
a pleasure, man. And so, folks, there you have it. Connect, with Eze. The book link is the website's gonna be on the description show. So click there, get the book. If you think this is for you, please, share the information for you or someone else. As a matter of fact, that's the other thing. Yes,
One,
go
one,
ahead.
one more quick thing. The
Mm.
I think it's through January 23rd. The book is on 20% discount now because it's been entered for the NAACP Image Award, and the nominations come out on the 24th. So the price will go back up on the 24th, but right now it's on sale.
Hey, listen, gotta do what you gotta do, folks. I'm gonna have the link. This is gonna be coming up soon, so watch it, learn it, get the book, and connect with your history, with your ancestry, with
That's
your
right.
dishes, your culture. All
You
right,
won't
so that
regret it.
never would. Listen, I feel you, man. It's how hard it is. I mean, for example, I'm true story before we close. Listen, I brought up my kids in this country. I mean, they're born here, and it's hard to actually connect your even kids with your culture. I mean, it's not
Mm-hmm.
an easy task to keep them, with the dress code, with the
And
culture, with the
engaged.
language, and keep them engaged, keep them understanding. It's very easy to dissolve and dissipate in the society. So it isn't important to always hold on to their heritage. So hopefully they will, keep up, with their, progeny and so on and so forth. Because eventually, if you don't do it right, it disappears, and then
Yeah. And
10
the kids don't see
generation.
the point. The kids are like, what's the point?
Yep. Yeah. So again, I mean, I had to throw in that in because it just brought me to that level of thinking, because really it's a big deal, and a lot of people
It
suffer
is
with
a big
this.
deal.
Yeah.
It's a
All
big
right.
deal.
Well, as I could spend another hour easy with you, but time's up. But thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much for
much.
the pleasure, dude. So, folks, there you have it. I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.
Bye bye.